Guts, grace, and radical courage. Just, they're words that have always been in my life, probably for the last 10 years. And they just kind of landed in my body. They just really ended up having this deep meaning probably about 2 weeks ago. And so when I think about the word guts, it can have so many meanings for so many people. And guts to me, in the context in which I'm living, is it's the guts to stay committed to my own growth and evolution, no matter what. And it's not this selfish growth, it's this growth and evolution for consciousness, for myself, in being in relationship with others, in community, and in a global sense. And so I feel like sometimes it takes a lot of guts to stand there and not just get an ordinary job. Not that an ordinary job is bad, let me put that, we all have the way we want to live. And yet it takes guts to continue to live outside of the status quo. And grace, well, my dearie. I feel like I'm fumbling through grace some days. And grace to me is, I'm coming to know it in a really deep way. I always thought it was in my dance. And I think grace is your ability to face yourself, to come face to face with, what you love, what your passions are, and also to come face to face to those spaces and places that we might not want to look at. We all have histories. We all live in ways. As a generalization, when I think about humanity and the conversations I'm in and out of, we all have spaces and places that we don't like who we are, or that we fall into the competitive comparison arena. And so those are some of the things to come face to face with that, or come face to face with what is spirituality and what is it to live as a spiritual being in my body. So often that's been defined by religion. I'm not saying that's wrong, but just to open it up. And when I think about grace, it's like grace sometimes is the beautiful message. It's the tears streaming down the face. It's the voice getting caught in the throat, and then it's seeing yourself to the other side. I think in sisterhood, and also in greater community. Oh, there's a flower tickling my knee. So grace, that's some of what I can put to words to it right now. And it's the courage. It's the courage, like what we think when we've fallen down, to get back up and dust ourselves off. And some days it's the courage to stay laying down, because that's what we need. That's what we need for our body, mind, and soul. And radical courage, well, I used to hate the word radical, but it's living a quantum way of being. So it's knowing I'm not this body, and yet I am this body. Without this body, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be breathing. And so to explore that in a really intimate way for myself, and then to be out loud in that, is courageous in a really different way. So I know there's more as I play with these conversations that I call guts, grace, and radical courage. Some days I don't feel like I'm courageous at all, but I think to be ourselves and to show up in our relationships, in our families, in the communities, in our systems that, quite frankly, are falling apart. Like to show up and be ourselves in those, I think that's the change I'm living. We're creating new systems. Yeah. And I think, a lot of what we've talked about lately is sisterhood and what that looks like. And a sisterhood that lifts each other's up, but also is willing to go to those deep places and to have these opposite truths on the table and know it doesn't define us. Yeah, and I guess my question back to each of you is, what's your guts, grace, and radical courage in your own life? I think we'd all be a lot different if we got to the guts of things. And then, okay, that's the guts, and let's move on from there. Without an ignorance, but a deep honoring of what has been. And then letting that move through our bodies and our minds, and then moving forward. with why we're really here. And that'll shift. I don't know what you call it yet, but there's this core element of respect, integrity, and generosity of spirit. Rig, as Louise LeBrun. Woo, did you just see that beat? Yeah, those elements are in play as we each pollinate this awakening that's happening. And not even awakening, like this living consciousness